Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. Welcome to This Podcast is Not a Conspiracy. Why did my subconscious mind pull Solomon's temple? Why? When I wrote The Learned Shadow, I had this moment where Bergen is in Alexandria, Rakadet, and the Romans are burning the university, the city. And Bergen is working to get all of the books and the documents out. And according to my story, Zabai gives Bergen X. That's part of the mystery in the book. His job is to get X to Ireland, specifically to the Druids, the Drui. So he gets there, and inside the archives, he is confronted by Fand, the Fey goddess, daughter of Danu. There's information. I haven't written it yet, but in the third and the fourth book, in the third book, Kalon, Rune, and Berrigan go to the Mimir's well, located underneath Hell, and they trade in some information. And the information tells them that they have to go to Solomon's temple, that it's in Solomon's temple. I don't know why. It was my gut instinct that said Solomon's temple. And I'm sitting here going, okay, it's in Solomon's temple. So then book 4 and 5 is them journeying. Book 5 is them journeying to Solomon's temple. And within Solomon's temple, it is revealed that Idun's apples are actually the apples pulled from the tree of knowledge. And there is something else there. And I thought to myself, nothing of it. My gut instinct said Solomon's temple. And I'm sitting here going, okay, Solomon's temple. Now here I am, 20 years later. I wrote these books in 2006. I outlined them in 2006. I have to finish them. I have 2 of the books out. I've got The Learned Shadow and Fire Lies. Winter and Ash is going to be book 3. And I'm sitting here going, well, I pulled out this and I'm looking at the symbols of the Masons. And these are words I do not say. I do not say them because the moment you start to say some of these words, they start listening. So knowing what I know about Triadic Healing and knowing what I know about Pythagoras, I know what's going to happen. I can already see it. As soon as I start saying the words, I see things and I'm connecting things. And I know where this is going to lead. And if you say the names, they will hear you. So I don't say the names. But I know really what the all-seeing eye is. I really know what that is because I found it. Omniscience is at the end of Triadic Healing. That's what I use to see all of this because I have omniscience. That's what it is. It is the journey to omniscience. That's what the 12 perspectives is. I can feel it in my bones. Every little piece of me is just vibrating, going, careful what you say, because they will listen if you say the wrong words. G And then I looked down and I see Solomon's Temple, and I went, my subconscious mind already saw something in the math and the logic, and it's already putting 2 and 2 together. And it did this back in 2006. There's a reason why he goes to Solomon's Temple. The thing is, the books are all in my head. I haven't written all of them out yet. I only have 2 published. And I am scared fucking shitless to say certain words, because the moment you say those words, anyone else can pretty much say the words and it's fine. But when you have the knowledge that I have with Triadic Healing and Pythagoras, and then you say these words, they start listening. And I'm saying the stuff that they're trying to hide. And that's what's got me scared. If anything happens to me, my family, my family's family, my network, or my network's network, you know I'm right. Which is why I started coming on every day and podcasting, going, hi, see me? This is me reporting in, because they haven't found me yet. Because when people become a certain level of intelligent, knowledgeable, or genius, they disappear. And it's only a matter of time before I find their radar finds me. And right now, it hasn't found me. So I'm going, okay, all right. And my goal is to become more visible than they can control. That is my goal. Because the more visible I become, they can't touch me. Because then the people will know. It's the ones that are unknown, that are invisible, that can disappear. The thing is, knowledge is the key. It's literally like the ball that I hold inside of my hand, and I'm going, look at the pretty shiny ball. It's as if it were an apple itself that I could just hand to you and say, oh, here you go. Because the moment you know, you can't be a puppet anymore. Bottom line, it's equivalent to a person stepping in going, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to educate all the slaves and teach them all how to read. The thing is, I know how big this is. I know how big it goes. I know how far it expands. And I am looking to set free 8 billion slaves who don't even know they're slaves. That is my agenda. That is my true agenda, is to set free 8 billion slaves who don't even know they're enslaved. Oh, but they have the mark of Bly on them. I can see the mark of Bly. And they're all screaming. And they're all crying. And they don't know why. Because they don't know what's being done to them. But I know, because it was done to me. And it took this knowledge to escape. And as soon as I escaped with my knowledge ball, I went, I'm going to give this ball to everybody. And there are people who don't want that. So my goal is to get the ball to as many people as I possibly can before they figure out what I'm doing. I can see things. And I think I'm going to do this. I already have it set up so that I'm off network. I already have a lot of things in place. I know how dangerous what I'm doing is going to get. I already have people in place. I'm smarter than them. I'm really smarter than them. And they're going to realize it. I am already like 8 million steps ahead of them. I'm not looking to do anything more than just educate the victims. That's all. Just educate the victims. Just show you. That's all. I pulled my daughter out of the school system, and I realized a long time ago that the school system is not about educating our children. The school system is not about educating our system. The school system is not about educating our children. The school system doesn't give a fuck about educating our children. That's not their agenda because they're bad at it. When teachers and educators learn about education, let me put it to you this way. I wanted to go into medical and healing. And I sat down and had a conversation with the medical field, with the HR facility. And I talked about healing and medicine. And this is what I got back. This is a business. You're not going to be here to heal people. You're here to make us money. This is a hospital. Yeah, that's right. And it's a business. And we have competition. Wow, that was a wake-up call for me that day. That's right. I can see educators almost having the same conversation. It goes like this. We're not here to educate people. This is a business. We're here to make money. We can't make money if we don't have customers. Customers are the cattle. And we just need X amount of cattle inside of our business. That way we can convince people X that we need money. Because this is a business. And we are in competition with all of the other ones. Yeah, I don't consent. Because I want my children to learn. Now, my teachers were Pythagoras and Plato, who actually gave a fuck about education. And as a result, I'm a super genius because I studied under Pythagoras and Plato instead of the United States government. So I'm smart. And people will be smart too once they realize that there's an alternative and that the school systems are not there to educate your children. They are train them how to be obedient slaves into a system. It's preparation for the real world. That's exactly what they say it. They don't hide that. We're preparing you for the real world. Well, when the real world is 9-to-5 jobs of enslavement, fun fact, New York City's government literally just signed a thing declaring state of emergency for employment, and now employers have the right to schedule people 20-hour work shifts a day. True story. Yeah, that's what my daughter's being groomed for. I'm very familiar with the psychology of grooming because I escaped it. And then I got to watch all of the trauma responses occur when I escaped it. And I went, oh, gee, look at my psychology. You know what doesn't lie? Psychology. Psychology and trauma symptoms don't lie. If you are shaking, there's a reason why. If you're constantly twitching, there's a reason why. So I'm omniscience. Omniscience is not a godlike skill. The word God is not what we think it is. Not at all. It's really bugging me. I've got this thing in my brain that's going, it's not right. It's not right. G, go back to it. I'm going back to it. I want to look up the word logos. God, it's driving me nuts. In Latin. I know it's Latin. Let's Greek. Let's look at the Greek. In Greek. What does logos mean in Greek? Logos. Holy shit. Okay. So, logic is synonymous with the word. Logos, logic, is Latin for word in Greek. Word literally means logic, which means for every word that comes out of your mouth, it is logic, which makes so much sense. My God, does it make all the sense in the world? Something is just nagging me. There's something there, and I can just feel it, and it's just not logical. It's like I'm missing something, and I can't figure it out. It's the word G, and it's just nagging at me. Gamma. Gamma. There's something that I'm missing. And it's just bugging me. It's because it doesn't make sense, because it's an anomaly, because something is contradicting the logic. That's why. Because when I see the letter G, and they're saying, oh, it means this, it means no. Your second perspective stuff, you go sit down over there. I got to think. Every one of the perspectives speaks its own language. I speak perspective 12 because I'm in perspective 12. So when I sit down and I look at other people who are in perspective 12 and I watch how they translate. For instance, Victor Hugo was a perspective 12, but he wrote in perspective 4. That's what Les Miserables is. That is 100% a 12 speaking as a 4. Now I'm a 12. I'm a 12 plus. So I'm looking at this stuff going, yeah, this is 12 plus. This is 12 speaking this language. This is this over here speaking this language. Christ was a 12, and he was speaking 2 because he lived in the second era. So all of his words are translated into the second perspective. So then the second perspectives take his 12th perspective, second perspective language, and they run with it. And that's what people come to me with. They're like, oh, look at this. And no. Shush. Christ was a 12th perspective, at least, speaking in the 12th perspective language, which is my language. Now I'm over here doing all of my psychology and all of my science, and I'm building this massive thing, and I'm going, oh, holy fucking shit, I have a new science. It's really awesome. I call it perspectivology for now, working title. And I'm looking at the science of the human evolution of the subconscious mind and how we shift from early development into the metaphysical mindset, which is the 12th perspective. It's passing through the metaphysical stage. I've made it through the metaphysical, and then you get into the omniscient. That's where I am. That's where Christ was. That's where all of the great books are. Every one of the great books masters made it to the 12th perspective. Now, we can communicate to each other and understand each other because we are talking from the omniscient point of view. But we are not understood by the second, third, fourth, fifth perspectives because they are in the first person point of view. And whenever we talk, we go way over their head. That's where I'll say something and I get people going, I have no idea what you just said. And that's because your perspective, to whom it may apply, is in the first point of view. It's like trying to look omnisciently through the world, but you're living inside of a dot. That's exactly what it's like. Now, I just gave you a metaphor. That is how you can translate and speak to all the different perspectives. You can translate what you say into metaphor so that other people can understand you. Otherwise, if you speak literally, I'm going to translate this. Literally means speaking within your own perspective. Metaphorically means speaking outside of your own perspective. That's actually what the words mean. So that if I speak literally, it's not going to be understood by anybody who is not a 12 plus perspective. If I speak metaphorically, now I will be understood by other people. So when I write books, it's all metaphor. It has to be. Because when I speak literally, it goes over people's heads. This is one of the things where when I write to my partner, I speak to him in 3 languages. I speak to him in his perspective, I speak to him in common perspective, and I speak to him in my perspective. Now, for the last 2.5 years, I have only spoken to him from the common perspective, which is painful for me. And I finally said, look, I want you to know who I am. But in order for that to happen, I've got to talk to you through my perspective. But in order for that to happen, I have to translate my perspective. But in order for that to happen, you have to know that these perspectives even exist. And most people don't. So there's these perspectives. And every one of these perspectives comes with its own language. And every perspective can be looked at through 4 points of views, giving a new language. I speak in the omniscient point of view in the 12 plus perspective. Unfortunately, everybody else speaks in the 4th perspective. Most everybody speaks in the 4th perspective, first person point of view. You don't get out of the first person point of view until you get to the you of I, which is the 2nd perspective, which very few people do. Christ, Holmes, Jung, Hugo, all of these people spoke with omniscient point of view, and or they spoke in the 2nd person point of view from the 12th perspective. Now, if they were to write all this stuff down, it would go over people's heads. Christ was no exception. So we translate it. We write it all in a different perspective using metaphor so that we can be understood. Now, it's going to change the words. It's going to change the meanings. So I'm putting together this science and I'm looking at the world through the scope of omniscient point of view. And I'm going, oh, wow, I can see the world real differently than everybody else. It allows me to see patterns. Oh my fucking God, do I see patterns everywhere. I see overlap. I see connections. I see everything. It's extraordinary. Welcome to Omniscient. It's really fucking awesome. But explaining this to people is what I kept. This is really fucking awesome. I have this one hair that's just sticking out. Is it bothering you? Because it bothers me and it's really fucking awesome. Yes, I am a neurodivergent and it's like silver. So it keeps catching the light. I'm going to leave it right there. That's right. It looks like a horn. This is fascinating. There we go. I think I got it. No, I didn't get it. I just pulled out another hair. This is fascinating to me. And it's like, oh, I think I got it now. Nope. I don't know where it is. Nope. I have no idea where it is. Maybe I got rid of it. Okay. Yeah. It was great because my light kept glaring on the silver and I'm like, yes, I have a unicorn hair. Now, I love ADHD. It's like, oh, squirrel. You were doing it too. A squirrel. All right, let me think here. I get back on track. Right. So it's this, you translate everything more metaphorically so that you can be understood by the different perspectives. You have a message to deliver. You have a message you want to say to the world. Hey, I got information that I want to tell you about. But in order to tell you, I got to translate it into a language that you'll understand because I'm talking to you from this point of view way over here and you're way over there. And we have these perspective gaps. And I want to bridge the gap. So metaphor bridges the gap. That's it. That's it, bottom line. Metaphor bridges the gap. The word God did not mean God in the 12th perspective. That's it. The word God does not mean God in the 12th perspective. We have a different word over here. And I've been using this word for decades because I figured this out when I was a kid, when I was like 15. I went, oh my God, X is it. X is it. X is the core of all of this. And I started to notice it when I was 15. And now that I've got this massive science that I've built and put together, and I'm looking at it all, and it's so beautifully logical. And every time any scientist, scholar, philosopher comes into my world and they look at my science and my work, they go, whoa, this makes sense. Psychology now is understood. It's science. Suddenly I'm looking at Christ's words in the Bible, which is just another great book, which is just another 12 perspective speaking in metaphor. But the Bible was written in the second perspective because it was translated and done and written in the second perspective by a 12th perspective who was translating for second perspectives. And the second perspectives cannot read it properly because they don't understand the 12th perspective. They don't see omniscient. So they took it literally when it was a metaphor. That's the problem. When you hear someone speaking from another perspective, you must know that they are speaking in metaphor. It's one of the biggest frustrations people get is someone will say something literally and someone will go, I don't get it. And then they'll get offended. Dude, I was talking metaphorically. And this allowance is what is required for communication. Is that when you are speaking to a different perspective, you must acknowledge the fact that they are going to be speaking either literally, which is metaphor for you, or they're going to have to speak metaphorically so that you can understand them. But understand it's a metaphor. You must know it's a metaphor because you cannot take a metaphor literally. It changes the meaning. So the word God is a metaphor translated to second perspective so that second perspectives can understand the message, but the message has been lost. And that was kind of the whole point. Jesus's message. No one's listening to the message. They're all consumed by the words, ignoring the message. He spoke in metaphor. So I'm sitting here going, all right, and I've got my information and I've got my message, and I'm going, well, here's my message. And then I look over at Christ's words and I go, your message is metaphor. If I were to translate Christ's words from second perspective over to 12th perspective, it's a message and it matches my message. It's the same thing. If I were to take my message and translate it over into second perspective, it would match Christ's words. Well, son of a fucking bitch. So I'm going to translate. God means logic. God means logic. Logic is the way, the truth, and the light. No man comes to its creator, its parent, creator, but by logic. There are a million words like this in the Bible that are mistranslated. Evil. Evil means bitterness. It means the mark of Bly. Evil means the mark of Bly. Good means love. Good means that joy and peace within. There are so many. He speaks with the I of I and the U of I. And there's a few things that really bothered me about Christ. It didn't bother me about Christ. It bothered me about the translations. For instance, people were like, oh, he loved us. He did this for us. And I'm going, whoa, 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 whoa. This is a man who cried, wept, and begged God to not do what he had to do. Did you read the Garden of Gethsemane? He didn't want to do it. But it was logical to do so. It was so logical to do so. And I'm having the same problem. I have had my moments of the Garden of Gethsemane so many times. I have had screaming matches with the logic, with the universe, screaming at it, going, I know what I have to do because logic says I have to do X. If I want this, I require to do X, but I don't want to do X, but that's the psychological fruit that's going to result from X. Therefore, I must do X. Logic is God. So now I'm sitting here looking at all of this going, oh, now I have to build a city. I don't want to build a city. I don't want to build a city, but logic says I have to. Because if I want X, the way to get to X is through this action. I don't want to put myself out there, but logic says if I don't, then I'm not going to get the fruits of my labor, aka the psychological fruits. Therefore, I must do X in order to get Y. This is just math. There's no other way. There is no other way. If you want X, you must do Y. Logic says so. Logic is God. There is no arguing with logic. There is no arguing with logic. You can't do it because the logician knows that there is only one logical pathway from A to B. The physics says so, that the fastest route of a straight line is between 2 points, A and B. So if you want A, you must do B. Logic says so. And I'm just looking at all of this going, I see. So I've had my temper tantrums where I've screamed at the universe and the logic and the math going, I don't want to do that. I just want the psychological fruit. Can there be any other way? No, because logic says so. You have to trust the logic. Oh, fuck, damn. Yes, you have to have faith in the logic. Now it makes sense. You cannot, under any circumstance, doubt the logic. Now let's look over at manifestation. Manifestation is extraordinary. I'm sitting here going, okay, now I'm certain that spirituality really does not exist. Oh my God, I have long since abandoned all spirituality. It is completely gone from me. It's fascinating because it was me highly religious because my parents told me I had to be highly religious. And then me deciding that physics was awesome and logic was it. And then me going through I have so much faith in God that I am going to pursue the world of logic and math and find my way back to God. And then there was the 6 months later, well, God doesn't exist and Douglas Adams is right and logic is king. And then there was my 30 years in which I was an agnostic and then an atheist. And then I got to the end of that journey and I went, whoa, something is happening here. Welcome to metaphysics. And because I didn't understand the metaphysics yet, I could feel the physics long before I could see the physics. I was going, all right, something is happening here. I believe in spirits. And suddenly I started plugging everything in and then I could see the physics and I went, oh, it's just physics. I can feel the physics. You can feel the physics after a certain point. And then I started to understand that a person could feel physics. And when you can feel physics, it changes everything. And when people don't know that they can feel physics, they invent spirituality and ghosts and supernatural to explain the feeling of physics. So physics has a feeling to it. You can feel it after a certain point, 6th perspective. And then you can feel it for the rest of your life. Now, from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th perspective, all you're doing is learning how to adjust to the feeling of physics. This is metaphysics. And then you get to the 10th perspective and you figure it out. You go, you know what? All the emotions are right. Just let me have them all at the same time. And they bombard you. They just boom, 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 boom. And you're just like taking in all the emotions. And that is when you make your peace with physics. That's it right there. You make peace with physics. That is the 10th perspective. You make peace with physics. And then you are aligned with physics and all the pain goes away. And then you feel fantastic because you have made peace with physics. And you know, all right, I get it now. I get it. I can feel physics. And then you realize what logic really is. That logic is simply the mathematical navigation of said physics. When you lie, you are speaking illogic. When you speak illogic, you are literally contradicting math. And when you can feel physics and you contradict math, it's going to fucking hurt. That is psychology in a nutshell. That's it. When you can feel physics, and by the way, math is physics. And when you tell a lie, you are literally contradicting math and physics. And because you are physics, it's going to rip you the fuck apart. So when you get to the 6th perspective, what's really going on is you are being told all of your lies. You are feeling every lie you have ever told to yourself and to others. That's what the 6th perspective is. You don't get inner peace if you lie to yourself. You don't get this far. This is the journey of ethics. You don't get to be ethical at the 12 plus stage and lie because you know at this point, oh, it's just math. Yeah. So when you're in kindergarten and you're doing all these little cute number equation things, yeah, you're going to be feeling those in a few years. When you're sitting there getting equations wrong, yeah, that's really going to hurt you later. When you're doing word problems in math and you're going, I don't understand why there's words in math. Words are math. And you are physics. And when you really wrap your head around this, that you are a mirror who lives by the laws of optic physics. How well do you know optic physics? Because if you don't know optic physics, you're going to be really fucking screwed. Yeah, you're going to be really fucking screwed. If you do not know electrical, energy, optic, and magnet physics, you're going to need this shit because you are it. You are it. If you don't know linguistics and logic and math, oh, you are so fucked. But don't worry. The 8th perspective will sort that out for you. It's going to fucking hurt. You'll get through it. Trust me, you'll get through it. But yeah, and this is beautiful. It's our evolution. It's going to happen. Yeah, it's just go for the ride. Just go for the ride. It's awesome. It just goes through it. Nature takes care of it for you. It was this massive just, oh, I'm physics. And I can feel the frequency and I can feel the energy and I can feel all of my mathematical errors. Because that's what your subconscious mind is. It is mathematical errors. Literally just all of the mathematical errors that you have in your head. You're going to feel them. And that's what happens when you reach that 6th perspective and it just rips you apart because you're physics. And math and physics are like this. And suddenly I'm just looking back on all of the education that I received, the math and the word problems and logic, and it all just made gorgeous, crystal clear sense. But trying to explain all of this to people in the 12th perspective while translating into other perspectives is fucking difficult, and it's impossible without metaphor. And about the only thing that's quite literal is, yeah, we are literally physics, and we are literally batteries. We are literally mirrors. And words are the mathematical equations that we are plugging into our head. It's logic itself. So if you're not using the right word, that's like not using the right number. That is exactly like not using the right number. Oh, and you will feel it. It's called cognitive dissonance. You're gonna feel it. And it's just this sudden comprehension of, wow, I'm suddenly really careful with the words I use because they're going to hurt me. My God, are they going to hurt me? But we've got a bunch of second, third, fourth perspectives who think that words don't matter because they're only fourth perspectives and they don't know better. So they're passing around not only wrong information, but incorrect information, dangerous information that's causing everyone a lot of pain. And they don't know it yet. But the emperor is naked and the kingdom is falling. And we don't have to do anything. No, we don't have to do anything at all. This is just life. This is evolution. But while everyone's going around going, evolution doesn't exist. Okay, all right. Yeah, we have words for that in physics. It's called resistance. Yeah, physics takes care of that too. Resistance to change. Well, what is your beautiful name, my love? All I can think of is Einstein right now. And that is so not his name. What is his name? Why is my subconscious mind blocking this information from me? It is safe to talk. It's safe to talk. It's okay to say it. Darwin. Darwin. Survival of the fittest. I always hated the word fittest. It didn't make sense. It was not logical. It was the wrong word. It was not survival of the fittest. It was survival of the adaptive. That is the right word. Darwin did not speak the right word. It is not survival of the fittest. It is survival of the adaptive. The question is, how adaptive are you? Because only the adaptive survive. And if you can't adapt, you don't get to graduate. You don't get to move on. You don't get to go anywhere. You know what adapting is? Change. So if you resist change, so says physics, then you don't get to leave. You don't get to go on. Resistance is the opposite of adapting. In fact, in the wonderful world of physics, we have something called adapters to end the resistance. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Sounds like something out of Star Wars. We have adapters, sir. That way they can end the resistance. Adapters end the resistance. And that's it, bottom line. If you have a psychology that resists instead of adapts, you're not going anywhere. It's really, really interesting. I don't do well with times. I'm the kind of person that says, if I'm going to be here on a certain time every day, I'm not going to do it. Because now we are walking into the world of a lack of choice. And some people are just not capable of conforming to a schedule. I am one of these persons because time does not exist. Time does exist. It's just not what we think it is. It's another abstract concept that was brought over to the literal world and then translated into second, third, and fourth perspective. And then fourth perspectives use time as a weapon. They turned it into something. And once you get to a certain perspective, seventh perspective, you go, well, time doesn't exist. So suddenly the flogger that they're beating you with dissolves in their hands and they're going, oh, and I'm going, yeah. It's really funny. Deadlines gone. Deadlines are gone. Urgency gone. It's amazing. It was so amazing to watch. It was literally like I had a slave driver standing behind me and they were just beating me with this flogger. And I step into the seventh perspective and I just went, oh, time doesn't exist. And I looked over at the slave owner and he's in the middle of, he's got his flogger up and he's ready to beat the fuck out of me. And he's just like, it dissolves out of his hand. And I'm like, yeah, that thing that you're trying to like shove me, like get the fuck away from me. Stop bullying me. Authority. And it has no effect. Now I'm missing appointments. I'm missing schedules. I'm missing things. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't care because I don't value time anymore. Time is not something to value, to shift, to move. It's like, it's my little bitch. It's a dimension. It's a location. It's a place. Time is a place. Time is a location. It's a coordinate. That's really what it is. It's a coordinate on a map. It's literally a coordinate on a map. And the map is the Big Bang. And suddenly time is where you are in relativity to the Big Bang. And now it's going, oh, so these are our coordinates. And I'm going, yeah, okay, well, who decided to start telling me at what clock hour I should be? I don't do clock hours. So, yeah, I don't do calendars. I go by, oh, look, the sun is up. Oh, look, it's dark now. The sun has gotten down. Oh, look, I am tired. Oh, look, I am awake. Oh, look, I am hungry. Yes, this is how I live now. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. So my dream, I want to talk about the word want. Want. It is the hardest word in the world. It really is. My daughter comes out here and she's like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. It's okay, honey. You are one day out of the slave system. Deep breath. Not knowing what you want is part of the trauma. And one of the first things she discussed, this is fascinating. And I remembered the feeling too. There's so much time. Yeah, wait for it. When you get out of the society, you're like, there's so much of it. You have an abundance of it. And you're just like, wow, what do I do with it all? What do you want? And you're just shock and awe. Give yourself 3 to 5 days. Shock and awe. Just sit yourself and reconfigure your natural clock back to nature. That's what you need to do. Get yourself back to nature. What's nature's clock? Readjust out of slave mind back into, there's this moment in The 10 Commandments by Cecil B. DeMille, Charlton Heston. It's like one of my favorite movies. I relate too well to that movie. And I remember his mother, his biological mother. It's the moment he realizes who he really is. And he's standing there with this Hebrew woman. He's standing over her. He's wearing his Prince Egypt clothes. And he's like, this was found in the cradle with me. Are you my mother? And I remember thinking things like, my God, she was so fucking tired. She was worn out. It was late at night. She got home like so fucking late after working all day because she's a slave. She was too tired to cook, too tired to think. Sound familiar? And I remember thinking, why am I watching a slave movie about a bunch of slaves? And why am I relating to their lifestyle way too well? That's interesting. Why am I relating to a slave? Why are you relating to a slave? Watch The 10 Commandments by Cecil B. DeMille. Watch Charlton Heston. Watch The Slaves. Who we relate to in story is who we are. Fascinating. That was the kind of thing that I stopped and went, why? Now, I had imagination. And I had a real problem with going inside the box. I don't do that. I've never gone inside the box. So everyone was like, get in the box. And I'm like, no. And I ran away with my imagination. Get in the box. No. Yeah, I did that a lot. I never went inside the box. Never, ever, 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 ever. So they found other ways to enslave me. And I watched everyone else doing what everyone else was told to do. And they all were fucking miserable. That's really what was the key. It was my father. It was my father who did it. He was like, I hate paying bills. I hate my job. And he was miserable. And I'd be like, wow, my father's really fucking miserable. And then he's like, all right, it's your turn. You want me to do the thing that you do that makes you miserable? Why would I do that? Why would I ever fucking do that? I never got an answer, which is probably why I never got in the box. And my father just did this whole, no, you got to do it. And I'm like, why? It makes you miserable. That is not an incentive. You got to get a job. Why? I watch you get a job and you are fucking miserable. And my father was an engineer. He chose his profession and he still fucking hated it. And he paid bills. And it was like a reminder to him, this is why you do the job that you fucking hate. What my father really wanted to do was travel the world. That's what my father really wanted to do. He wanted to travel the world. But some dipshit somewhere told him that he had to get a 9-to-5. So he did. Some dipshit told him somewhere that he needed money. So he did. And I'm just looking at all of it going, dude, do you really need money? Do you? If you know how to manifest. So there's like this is split down the middle. This is where it gets really funny. I've got me going, I manifest. And I've got logicians. No, there's no one around me who's a logician. What I have is a bunch of mathematicians all go and scientists going, oh, manifestation isn't real. And then you've got 9-to-5 job people going, oh, manifestation isn't real. And then you've got a lot of second perspective and spiritual people going, manifestation is real. And then you've got a lot of people praying, saying, oh, yeah, God answers my prayers. Logic answers your prayers. And then you've got a lot of other people, millionaires, who are going, oh, yeah, I manifest. It's one of their secrets. That's how they get the money. And then I've got a lot of billionaires, all of them going, oh, yes, I absolutely manifest. And I'm going, interesting. The rich people all manifest. And the spiritual people all manifest. I manifest. And then you've got a lot of poor people who don't manifest. A lot of scientists who don't manifest. Fascinating. Who's right? This is where I look for consistency. This is where I start to delve it down. And I'm going, the scientists don't believe in it. So they're not researching it. Because that's the interesting thing about science. This is something that I really stepped into when I became a scientist. It was, If you are going to adopt the learning exploration mindset, you have to abandon bias. And a lot of scientists don't. A lot of religious people don't. If you really want to know truth, you have to be open-minded to everything, because you are not going to learn anything unless you're open-minded. It is the first rule of learning and education and teaching is open mind, closed mouth, no prejudice. Adventure, curiosity, no fear. Scientists and religious people don't do that. Ironically, that's the thing they both have very much in common. They both are adamant that they're both right. Both have refused to learn. So I went into the concept of astrology, manifestation with a very open mind, because if it's truly something, ghosts, supernatural, I wanted to know the science. I believed that if you're open-minded and you explore these supernatural, spiritual things, astrology, with an open mind, that there can be a science discovered. And there is, and there was, I found it. And this is how manifestation works. It is want. It is want. And it is logic, physics, and math. Same thing with astrology, same thing with divination, same thing with spirituality, same thing with ghosts and the supernatural. It's physics. But because the scientist is closed-minded to it all, they're not studying it. And because the religious person is closed-minded to science, they are not studying it. So they're going, oh, it's faith. And there's no evidence. And that's not what faith is. In the meantime, the scientists are so adamant that faith is garbage and that spirituality is garbage that they're not studying it to get the science to say, hey, here it is. You must have an open mind. Learning is the very first core of being a scientist. If you're not going to be learning and educating, then don't call yourself a scientist. Absolutely throw it out. Because the moment you become prejudiced, you're done learning. So I broke down the cognitive core, which is what you want, what you ethically value, what you believe. This is core to this process. And then there's your name, knowing who you are, and then your perspective. So this is the cognitive core of your subconscious mind. Everyone's got this beautiful thing. What you want is key. Now let's throw a bunch of physics and math and logic in here. This is called your logical health. When you take what you love and what you value, this is your logic. Everything that you are is built off of these two things now. This is your logic. Technically, this is all that we are. Belief is where prejudice comes into place. Belief is a limitation. Belief is a real problem. We're back to that resisting and adapting. How much you resist and adapt is 100% dependent upon your beliefs. Your beliefs is like a gauge or a filter that's going to determine how much you adapt and how much you resist. If you are closed-minded, you're going to resist. If you are open-minded and learning, you are going to adapt, which means the fewer beliefs you have, the more adaptive you are. I call them variable beliefs. If you have variable beliefs, that's fantastic. You have an open mind. You are open to change. Another word for this is a weak agnostic. A strong agnostic is as adamant and resistant as an atheist and a Christian, both of whom are claiming that they know and they are refusing to change. Now you are resisting. You must be adaptive. Survival of the adaptive. Huge to evolution, which is all contingent upon your growth. So you have your logical health. Our intuition is 100% pure, internalized logic, math, and physics. And that's all it is. By the time we are about 2 years old, our natural clock, natural rhythm, our ability to process physics and logic and math on such an internalized level embeds into us. So that when we know what we want, when we know what we love and value and have ethical priority to, we feel this mathematical equation pulling at us. It is amazing. Remember, rule number 1, you are physics. You are a mirror. You are a battery. So now you can feel physics. Your intuition and your gut instinct is you feeling physics. It's so awesome. And when you start to realize that you can feel physics and that the physics will show you where you mathematically need to be, probably exactly like a chessboard, then you know, because you know the moves of all the chessboards, then all you have to do is decide, what do you want? But we are in a society where what you want is banned juju. We don't talk about what we want. What we want is bad and doesn't matter. So as a result, a lot of people don't think about what they want. And they're hesitant. They feel shame. They feel guilt for wanting. We have a really crappy relationship with want. And as a result, that interferes with our ability to manifest. So when we really wrap our heads around and embrace the concept of what we want, the math takes care of itself. You have to be highly adaptive. You have to be open-minded, and you have to want. Now, they also talk a lot about abundance versus scarcity. And the reason why is because scarcity really pulls into your fear system. And that's the problem. So what they're really trying to do is they are trying to condition you to stop being afraid without actually addressing fear. What they're doing is just trying to get you to think positive and think abundance and think gratitude. But that's really, that's not it. That's not it at all, because that's literally like putting the cart before the horse. What you need to address is your resistance. But if you're afraid, you're not going to be open. Adapting is a vulnerability, and that's really what this is. It's you agreeing to be vulnerable. When you surrender, and we hear this a lot in Abraham Hicks, when you surrender, what you're really doing is accepting vulnerability. And when you plug that into what you want, and then surrendering to the math and the physics and the logic, oh, you're set. You're set. So that's really what you want to do, is define the want. 100, I would say 90% of manifesting is just deciding what you want with conviction. And it's going to take vulnerability, adapting, and surrender. Those are the ingredients. That it is vulnerability, surrendering to vulnerability, and adapting what you want. And then the rest just takes care of itself. And then you are literally turning yourself 100% over to logic, math, and physics, which your intuition is already reading and pulling from the universe. Oh my God, it reads so much. Your intuition is nothing but math, logic, physics, internalized into your nature's clock. It's all ingrained in you. So you can feel mathematically when it's time to move your king, take your knight, shift your pawn. All of that's already embedded into you by the time you're 2 years old. So once you understand that formula, and that's really it, it's what do you want? A lot of people don't know what they want. A lot of people have no clue what they want. They have no idea how to define what they want, or they feel guilty, or they're questioning their own ethics. And it's because they don't have their self-defined. They don't know what they are. They have so much indecisiveness because they don't know what they want. And that is like 90% of manifestation. So manifestation is not this spiritual thing. It's not this chakra stoned enlightenment. It is not the laws of attraction. It's not any of that. It's just logic, math, and physics, and you understanding how batteries and mirrors work. Because a battery runs off of the concept of being an adapter or having resistance to energy, and you can't have that. And in order to get to that point, you require vulnerability and surrendering it. So once you really understand how math, physics, logic really plays into manifestation, it's not mystery at all. It's not spirituality at all. It isn't prayer to a God, because again, God is logic. It is just understanding the physics of how all of this aligns so that you can just define what you want. But you got to want it. You just got to want it. You got to want it out of pure love, which is why God said, ask in the name of love. Ask in my name and it shall be given. Like I said, once you start really translating 12th perspective language, and then you look at Christ's words, you're like, oh, he's just talking about manifestation. He's literally just talking in the 12th perspective. So it's really ask in the name of love. In the name of love is logic, because logic is love and value. We're back to, what do you want? So if you just want it, and then trust and have faith in the logic, the math, and the physics, which is really easy to do. This is one of my favorite parts. Having faith, let's talk about faith. Having faith in logic, math, and physics. It's this Somebody somewhere said that if you have proof, you can't have faith. I'm going to just pull from Douglas Adams. It's the Babelfish. It's the Babelfish entry from the book of Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is how the argument goes. This is me quoting as best I can Douglas Adams. The Babelfish proves that God does not exist because the argument goes like this. I refuse that I exist, says God. For proof denies faith, and without faith, I am nothing. But, says man, the Babelfish proves that you exist, therefore you don't exist. Oh dear, says God, I hadn't thought of that. And next thing you know, man proves that white is black and black is white, and he dies in the next zebra crossing. Douglas Adams. So this concept of proof and faith, I don't agree with it. Not at all. You can have faith and proof at the same time. This is where science and religion needs to stop fighting. Proof does not deny faith. Not at all. Faith is trust. Period. Faith is just a fancy word for trust. You can have all the evidence in the world and still struggle with trust. That's not where trust comes from. Trust comes from honesty and lying. This is where the Vikings step in. Oh my God. Trust is your ability to be true to your word. That's why we call it true to your word. True trust. Really cool. The Vikings had a thing with trust where you were not trustworthy, aka honorable, if you could not stand by your word. This is where the handshake comes from. It was the Viking contract that said, here is my word. I am telling you the truth. Trust the truth. Trust and truth. Like I said, they're cognates for this reason. So trust 100% comes from the concept of, do you lie or are you honest? Somebody who lies cannot be trusted because their word is valueless. Word is logic. So says Greek and Latin. The words are synonymous. Words are logic. Now we are looking at when you tell the truth, are you speaking logic or are you speaking illogic? That's really what the words mean. That's really what all of this translates to. So now you're looking at the word trust. Can you trust somebody's word as being logical or illogical? If you can trust them to be logical, you can trust them. Now let's talk about faith. Faith is believing that the logic is conclusive. Oh, we have words for this in philosophy. This is logical formal argument and debate. Oh, this is beautiful because it's going full circle. So faith is the belief that you can form a logical argument. That is exactly what faith is. That is what faith is. That is it right there in a nutshell. And this defines a proof. I love it. This is a mathematical proof. This is it right here. Oh my God, this is so much word fun for me. I have British sense of humor. So for me, this is fucking hilarious. So yes, this is where mathematical proofs come from, is you are proving that the argument is truth. Do you have faith that your proof adds up to a logical conclusion? Or do you have logical fallacy? Oh my God, this is so very much in our psychology. So when you manifest, you have to have faith that your logical argument is void of logical fallacy and it adds up. It is a sound argument. And if you can't do that, you don't have faith in your reasoning skills or your logic skills. Now, you can use logic to prove that something exists and still have faith that your logic is solid. That's what we call a premise versus a false premise. Once you have this ability to add them all up, it all adds up. Welcome to formal argument and debate. Welcome to the world of logic. This is how it's done. So you can prove that something does exist and have faith that your logical argument is sound. Proof does not deny God's existence. Faith does not mean you have to have no proof. Quite the opposite. Proof and faith are bed partners that should be working together. But someone somewhere decided to pit these two things against each other in conflict. It is as if somebody wanted us to fight amongst ourselves. Now, who would want us to fight amongst ourselves? Anytime two people are fighting, always look at the person who is stirring the pot. Always. Iago comes to mind from Shakespeare Othello. Iago comes to mind. He stood over the entire play, stirring the pot, having everybody fight amongst themselves while Iago stood there and machinated it all. So my question is who is the one machinating all of our petty arguments? Well, let's examine the evidence. We are fighting about politics. We are fighting about ethics. We are fighting about science. We are fighting about religion. We are fighting about abortion. We are fighting about territory. We are fighting. Think about everything we're fighting about. What do all of these things have in common? Who is the one common denominator? Because there is one common denominator that is constantly news. The news. Well, are they the communicators? Are they the ones just delivering the information? Because there is someone, something, some entity that's causing all of this as a distraction. I know psychology. This is a distraction. This is a big red herring. Because if you're too busy fighting amongst yourselves, you're not going to notice what's really going on. This is a smoke and mirror show. That's what that is. Something's up. Something stinks in the state of Denmark. Real bad. So I'm looking at this going, yeah, who is causing all the fighting and why? Because if we're fighting, we're not thinking, which is why we really need to stop fighting and start thinking really, really big time, because something is fucking up. So when you manifest, what you are really doing is just tapping into what do you want? Stop resisting. 100% open your chest to vulnerability. Vulnerability is not weak. That's another word that was used improperly to screw up your proof and your logical theorem so that you think vulnerability is a problem. Vulnerability does not mean weak. In fact, vulnerability means exposed, and it is the greatest strength, and it has an amazing consequence of giving you authority. Sounds like someone doesn't want you to have your vulnerability. So they say, oh, you don't want to be vulnerable. Vulnerable is weak. Who published the dictionary? Because I think the dictionary is the one responsible for all of this problem. Because when you start using logic to sort out the dictionary is our biggest liar. Interesting. Because when you start to use logical proofs to start going over the definitions that have been given to us, the dictionary is wrong, really wrong, almost on purpose, because we're all fighting. Why are we fighting? So yeah, vulnerable is actually the openness. That's literally what it means. It means open. It is open. It is vulnerable. It is exposed. And that takes great strength. That takes a vast amount of strength to accomplish. It is very powerful. Thank you so much for your audience, and may the kindest of words always find you.
Okay, sorry.